Hi, my name is Kathryn Templeton, and I'd like to share with you my thoughts on the Ayurvedic perspective on stress response with regard to how we see symptoms of anxiety and depression in our behaviors and in our feelings. I wanted to talk about this in terms of the doshas. So just as a quick refresher, we have 5 elements, and they're broken down into 3 body type with tendencies. There's Vata, which is air and ether, Pitta, which is fire and a little moisture or water, and then Kapha, which is water and earth. Because the way we experience stress will not only be determined by our past history, we call those samskaras, or in psychiatry we'd say neuropathways. So our past life experiences will dictate some of how we experience stress, what's been happening to us biologically, what happens in our physiology around the adrenal surges we've had over the course of our lifetime, or at least the last few years, will also dictate how we can tolerate or manage our stress. But the third factor that comes in that Ayurvedic medicine looks at, which I really appreciate, is this understanding of how our tendency is because of our dosha. So if my dosha, or my constitutional nature, my type, is more etheric, more air and ether, or more Vatic related, then I'm already going to have a much more hypermobile nervous system. My mind is very creative then and has a lot of fervent energy that can move with great changeability. This is a wonderful trait. But if I start having more stress put upon my system, either physical stress, emotional stress, maybe there's been an acute or very quick life change that's happened, my ability to digest and navigate that stress with great ease and grace might be more difficult, because my nature, while very changeable, isn't incredibly durable. So we might see stress response for someone who's more Vatic in nature to be more of a nervous type or anxious response, which we would call traditionally in psychiatry restlessness, maybe dryness, difficulty focusing because there's so much movement in the mind, rushing thoughts, perhaps a difficulty getting good quality sleep, which of course then has a wheel of creating more difficulty managing energy during the day. We might see large weight gains or large weight loss. So Vata is the dosha that gains weight quickly and lots of it, and the dosha that has waste or actually won't eat under stress. So one or the other is very irregular. It goes to one end of the extreme or the other. So that's more of a Vatic type of response to stress. And of course in Ayurvedic medicine what we do is the opposite effect. So if my stress response is to have this irregularity of thinking, or this dryness in my skin, or a lightness where I can't sleep, I'm going to bring in opposite actions to counterbalance that and to support my stress. So I might do body oiling, which we call abhyanga. It's very specific, and I have all kinds of articles written about it on Yoga International. And of course, Banyan Botanicals has some wonderful articles written about abhyanga as well. That's a practice, a body oiling that helps both to bring a heavy, wet quality to the body, and it wraps like a swaddle around the nervous system, and it really supports us. We do it every single day. That every single day piece is sometimes hard for Vata as well. So that's one Ayurvedic practice that we offer. A yogic practice we might offer would be some sort of regularizing pranayama or breathing technique like alternate nostril. It works with right and left brain to create this cross-brain support and a connection and a union, so the mind isn't experiencing this frenetic energy. Another very useful breathing technique that we use in Yoga and Ayurveda for this more anxious stress response for Vata is diaphragmatic breathing. So bringing the relationship of the breath down to the belly. And again, Yoga International and Banyan Botanicals, and on my website, KathrynTempleton.com, I've got lots of other information as well as my colleagues do about these practices. The third thing I want to talk about this particular response, and I'll address the other two in subsequent videos, but the third thing I want to talk about is this cognitive behavioral therapy, or the way we work in traditional psychiatry to help with our thinking triangle. So sometimes helping clients slow down the thinking process and breaking it down so it doesn't just become reactive, but in fact becomes responsive is really, really helpful. So thoughts, feelings, and actions get isolated, and we can see how a thought can have multiple feelings, thus multiple actions or karmas that we'd use in yoga, dependent upon what the feeling and the thought are charged with, or the energy around them. So using yogic practices, using Ayurvedic practices and using practices from the world of psychology in a very systemic, organized, and skillful manner will wrap around that client to support their stress response and give them the tools that they need to begin to have a sense of self-mastery and self-support.